First of all, with Kyrie and Harden, is there any news on the extensions? You said you felt they would they would sign before camp. And also, we've seen them working out, but can you just describe their progress in rehab and their fitness?
Recording in progress.
Yeah, the first one, the progress of their rehab and overall health. For what we've seen, they look great. Our performance team has been with them. Our coaching staff has been with them, spending considerable time with them. I can attest that they're in great spirits. They're ready to go like the rest of the team. You know, it'll be a work in progress as to like how we proceed with all of our guys, not just James and Kyrie into camp and how they used over the course of the first couple of days, weeks, and so forth. As we all know, we've talked about it really ad nauseum that you know, it's a grind. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. But you know, we're obviously always trying to save those guys from themselves half the time. But they feel good. They look great. So that's a positive thing. Regarding the extension conversations, we've had very positive conversations with both those guys, and their, whether it's family members, people, and so forth. You know, I think it always helps to do these things in person. Again, you know, with this being summer and people, you know, we're very cognizant of letting people have their own time away and you know, before we all get back into the swing of things here. So we're looking forward to sitting down with them over the course of the next week, 2 weeks, and furthering those discussions again.
Sean, are you equipped to win it all this year in your mind? And do you expect to win it all this year?
You know, I think our goal is to be the last team standing. You know, there's probably, my guess, 6, 8, 10 teams that have that same similar goal and a realistic one. You know, for us, it's about owning that and not shying away from it and doing everything we possibly can, putting people into place, whether it's staff members, players, rounding out the roster in order to try and accomplish that. So, you know, I think we've also got to take into account that it's a long season. Anything can happen, as we've seen over the course of just last year. There's been the ability to stay flexible and be able to pivot throughout the course of this year, the previous year, and years in the past is always important. And we're going to have to do the same thing here. You just never know what's just around the corner. So, you know, I think I give our scouting department a heck of a lot of credit, our draft department, and the coaches. The work that these guys have put in over the summer, you know, with our players has given us the best shot at being exactly that, which is the last team standing.
Hey, Sean, you currently have 19 guys on the roster, if my math is correct. You could add one more before training camp. Do you anticipate using that other spot? And then just with the open two-way, do you plan on letting that stay open throughout camp and see maybe who wins it, or do you already have an idea with that one?
Yeah, regarding the two-way, I think it's nice to go in and have healthy competition. So that's the way we're going to look at that. There's going to be nothing set in stone. There's nobody with a leg up, per se. Regarding the 19th spot, I think we're going to use this next few days to try and figure out, you know, do we want to fill that out? And there'll be discussions that, you know, Steve and I've had multiple discussions with the coaching staff, like how they want to attack camp. And a lot depends on the reps in camp and so forth. And do we need to go in with 20? Do we keep it at 19 and so forth?
Hey, Sean, good to see both of you guys. I'm curious with the new vaccine mandates. I think they probably went into effect maybe on the 13th. So you have a little bit of time before you guys are playing at home and practicing full bore at home. But do you expect any of these vaccine mandates to be an issue going forward? I mean, with your roster, are there guys that you would consider to be either reticent or holdouts in terms of getting vaccinated?
You know, obviously I can't get into details for a variety of different, whether it's HIPAA violations or whoever it may be. I think we all understand what's at stake. You know, we've had very candid conversations. Those are individual decisions that whether it's a staff member or whether a player has to come to terms with. It's obviously out of our control. We are supporting getting the vaccination and putting out a healthy squad. And so at this point, I think we're ready to go into the season. We don't see these, whether it's a citywide mandate or whether it's the league mandate to follow, being any sort of hindrance to us putting out a team.
Hey, Sean, with
Kyrie and with James Harden and those extensions, is it important for you and the organization to get those done sometime before the regular season? Because now you have Kevin on that track and it kind of takes away some kind of distraction outwardly, at least. How do you see that?
To be honest, I haven't really looked at it as a distraction per se. I think this is something those guys know, exactly how we feel. And I think they've been vocal about wanting to be part of this and build this together. I mean, I think we've got an opportunity to hopefully do something special here for the foreseeable future. And, the fact that they want to collaborate, they want to come here together, they want to build this together. I look forward to those discussions, with Steve and myself and obviously, ownership who's been incredibly supportive through this whole thing and with the players. And I think it's just like any decision, it's a partnership and it's a collaboration.
Sean, what was the process of Aldridge getting approved to come back and what went into your decision to bring him back? And for Steve, if you could just speak to the additions of Millsap, Mills, and the return of Aldridge.
I spoke to LaMarcus multiple times over the summer, specifically right when he decided to step away from the game. And, I respect that decision completely. I think we furthered our conversations and, he called and said, look, I've been cleared. I have multiple doctors, including our own and several specialists throughout the country. It's not something that we take lighthearted. It's not something that he should either. And he was very comfortable, wanted to be back here. And he stated, like several of our guys have, there's unfinished business here. So to bring him back in the fold, we thoroughly enjoyed, our time, all but short, with him last season. I think we all saw what he was capable of doing and the dynamic that he added to the team, both on the court and off the court, and gives Steve, another very versatile big to play with. So after he had cleared those, the specialists had given the green light and he had come to terms with it on his own, he was fighting to come back. And I think that's what you love to see in a player. They want to be here and he's well aware of what's at stake and so forth. And which is, as I said, to be that last team standing, wants to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was great having LaMarcus, a part of our team last year. I thought he added a lot to our room. And, unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of him on the floor. But, he was an experienced, skilled, versatile big that has a high IQ and knows how to play and was adding a lot just to our, collective IQ and our experiences. So we're excited to have him back. Patty obviously is a championship player with the Spurs, has been there for 10 years. I think he's an incredible lift to our culture, just being the type of character he is, the personality he has, and his ability to shoot and play with pace helps us immensely as well. Paul Millsap's, a tough, intelligent, skilled big who's seen it all. So another guy that can play a few positions and stretch the floor or play inside, can pass and play, make, facilitate, and will understand and be able to fit into any defense. So, we added 3 veterans with high IQ and high character, and that's always, a really positive thing for our coaching staff.
For the next question, we'll go to Christian Winfield on Zoom.
Hey, Sean. Hi, Steve. How you guys doing? Got a question for each of you guys. Hope you guys had a great summer and enjoyed you guys' summer. Steve, I'll start with you. At the end of the regular season, I asked you what the difference might be between going into an offseason as a player and going into an offseason as a coach. I'm wondering what you did in this offseason and like just what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I mean, this summer I think you spent a lot of time just looking back on what you experienced this year, trying to figure out what avenues you took were positive, what you'd reconsider, all that sort of stuff that you always should do to review, a segment of time within any industry. I think after that, you're connecting with players, staff, trying to set the stage for a return. And then this past 3-4 weeks, we've been in the office just analyzing, rebuilding, getting prep for camp and trying to project, how we'll attack this season. So nothing too surprising. Really it's just, I think, a standard approach to trying to get better and no matter what you do. And I think that's the approach we took. And we've been hard at work here in September and enjoying the process, coming together, adding some new staff, adding some players and trying to, project forward what's the best approach for this group and how can we put them in a position to succeed.
Got it. Thank you. And Sean, given the talent that's obvious on this roster, how important is the number one seed to you this season? Is that symbolic of what your team should accomplish, or does that not really matter to you?
Well, I think at the end of the day, you look at wherever you're seated as, a little bit of what the progress was throughout the season. We're not going to hang our hats on a 1 seed, a 2 seed, whatever it may, 3 seed, 5 seed. It doesn't. To us, there's a bigger picture involved here. So, I think it's always been about health. It's always been about the continuity of the group and having the group play together for as long as we possibly can. So, if that means, that guys are out, guys have missed time, what have you, okay, then maybe that 1 seed, or a higher seed, didn't happen for us. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the team is healthy and running on all cylinders when it matters the most, which is playoff time.
Tim Bontemps.
Hey guys, Sean, this is for you. You said before that the vaccine mandates, whether it's by the league or by the city, wouldn't be a hindrance to you guys putting out a team. If practice was starting today as opposed to next week, would you be able to have everyone practice now, or would there be guys that are not able to because of those mandates on what's going on? Participation without the vaccine.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Regarding could they play today, I can't comment on whether who could play and so forth. There would obviously be a couple of people missing from that picture. I won't get into who it is, but we feel confident that, in the following, several days before camp, everybody will be allowed to participate and participate fully.
So your expectation then would be that would not be the case by the time the season starts on the 18th or 19th or whatever that date is, that'll be resolved by then?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Brian Mahoney.
Hey guys, wanted to ask you as you watch the rest of the playoffs played out, how you feel ultimately you guys did defending Giannis, and when you build this roster going forward, whether you feel like you have the right kind of players there to defend that, or whether it's something you're going to have to look to, whether this is such a player now that could be in your path that you have to prepare for differently.
Well, I think I'll answer first. I think there's, a lot of teams in our path. We got to give Giannis a lot of credit and the Milwaukee Bucks a lot of credit. They've played extremely well, and kudos to those guys. But in order for us to get to where we need to go through, we're going to have to get through a lot. We obviously made some tweaks to the roster, some changes there. I'll let Steve comment on, how they would approach that. But it's about us also controlling what we can control as well.
Yeah, Giannis is an incredible talent. NBA champion now, MVP, and his resume grows. So he is he's a special player. I thought though overall our defense was really good in the playoffs. Numerically, the eye test. I think we held them in almost every game under 100, and even getting more granular. We did a lot of things well, especially when you look at the health of our roster and the state of us at that stage of the season. I'm really proud of the effort the guys put in, the way they grew and developed defensively. We chipped away at it all year, and when the playoffs came time, our defense was really good. So, of course, that's something that's got to continue. We've got to continue to hopefully build on that and pick up as close to where we left off as possible, at least have some form of corporate knowledge that we didn't have going into last year, and continue to grow defensively. And more than anything, just be as clear minded as possible with who we are defensively when we get to the playoffs.
Hey, Sean, I wonder how difficult it was to deal with the off-season of what if, when you think that you did everything right and for one reason, for injury or bad luck, or you didn't go as far as you wanted. And with that in mind, how do you deal with not making rash decisions at the same time, not be complacent?
Yeah. It's a great one. I think we're all still trying to wrap our heads around that. The what ifs. I don't think we look back and think of, man, if we'd only done this, or the luck had fallen a different way for us. That's kind of the beauty about professional sports. Anything can happen at any turn, and we've got to stay flexible and be able to pivot, next man up approach. We commented beginning of last season, or maybe even it was before that, was going to be in the bubble. It was the teams that were able to manage the pandemic the best, whether that was through their own protocols, safety and health protocols, or whether it was just through, a little bit of luck, or being unlucky. Those were going to probably be the last teams standing. And I think we saw that. And you got to give Phoenix and Milwaukee a lot of credit, and the teams that made it, towards the end there, they managed it well. And the rest of us, are going to have to manage ourselves, manage our team, manage our peers, hold each other accountable, because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with something that none of us have ever dealt with before, in our lives. Hopefully we go into this year a little bit more prepared, but again, it's as you and I are both watching the news together, and there's days in there where you turn it on, you go, wow, this is getting worse and worse and worse, and what's changing here? So.
For both of you, I'm sure you've discussed all the possible rotation permutations and so on, but since you've added so many veteran big men, what is the thinking in terms of where KD will play? Is it possible he'll shift to small forward and Joe will come off the bench? Or how do you see Joe rebounding from a poor playoff after a great regular season?
Well, I don't worry about Joe. I mean, he's high character individual. He's tough as nails. Unfortunately, he got cold at the end of the year, but he was outstanding all year, took on a ton of responsibility, played almost every night, super physical, to be counted on, and I think he'll grow from this. So I think in some ways it's about Joe. His character will lead him to grow from this, and that'll be a positive in one respect. As far as the big men, I think we just looked at it as an opportunity to what's available and can we add to our team. So now, will it be tricky at times trying to find minutes for everyone? Sure. But that's part of being a championship team, is playing for something bigger than yourselves. And our guys, I think, will understand that. I think they all come here knowing that we're trying to get across the line, and it's not about the individual's minutes or touches. So that's something that I think collectively we'll deal with. And, I'm sure Kevin will play all over the place. We have a bunch of kind of quote unquote centers on our roster, but there's times he might play the 5 and there's times he'll play the 3. So, and I think it's also a little bit, unnecessary to name positions the way we play the game nowadays. It's kind of like, is there a center and then 4 perimeters? Or is there 5 perimeters even at sometimes? So I don't get too caught up in the positions and the slots. And a lot of that is going to, dictate how the season goes and how our health is and how the chemistry is. But, we got options, and we got a lot to get through and sift through before we recognize any, really clear patterns as to what we're going to do.
In terms of the rookies and the young players, what have you seen, Steve, since the summer league that gives you confidence that things are going to be going well?
Well, the guys have all been in our gym a lot, for a few weeks now, and that's been positive. They've worked hard. I think we see NBA players in them, and it's just a matter of developing them now. It's a tough team to break into. So some of these rookies, their work cut out for them if they're going to get in the rotation for sure. But that's a great challenge for them. I was a 15th pick who only played my rookie year when KJ was injured. And so it's not how you start, it's how you get there. And so I've definitely preached to some of our rookies already that, you got to play the long game. And whether you crack the rotation this year or not, whether you don't play a minute or spend a ton of time in the G League, it's important for you to think long-term and not give away days. And if you have that mentality and attitude, this will be a very productive year for you, whether you play or you don't play.
This is for Steve. Steve, you had a lot thrown at you as a rookie coach, and with all the injuries and everything. You said you look back in the off season. When you look back, what growth do you see you went through, and was there any real surprises, and what are you taking into this year?
Yeah, it's you learn a lot. You grow into the position. I definitely tried to build or to encourage a very collaborative environment. So we take pride in this together as a staff. We learn from our mistakes, and we learn from our experiences together. We're constantly trying to find ways that we can put the players in better positions. So many little lessons along the way, and then some of it is cloudy. You know, like how do you truly analyze what happened at the very end when it was so new? Our 9 rotation players, game 1 of the playoffs, had never been available together once the entire year and only lasted a game and a half until Jeff Green got hurt. And, you know, it was very difficult to analyze in its entirety. Having said that, we don't make excuses. We still look at ways that we could have won the series. You know, they ended up being the NBA champs, and we're very close to beating them regardless of the state of our roster. So with a little luck and a little health, maybe we'd be in a different position right now, but we have to try to use that as fuel and learn from it and grow and put ourselves in a position to take all those experiences and put us in a better footing this year.
Hey, Steve. Mike Scotto from Hoopside Behind the Mask with you. Just curious, you know, like as a player, you go into the offseason, you can train and get better. To kind of piggyback off of Barbara's question, as a coach now in year 2, is there anybody you maybe talked to or certain film you looked at to improve going into year 2 as a coach? Like, how do you improve individually with this team?
Yeah, all the above. You know, I talk to as many people as I can. You know, I talk to my staff because they know intimately what we dealt with, what the decisions were, why we took the decisions we did. You know, we have some fortune. I have the fortune of having lots of people out there that I can speak to as well to get their perspective from a 30,000-foot view, which is often very helpful. And we watch film, we analyze, we look back, we kind of analyze not just the film, but also our approach. You know, what were we missing? What can we do better? How can we, you know, reiterate and find a new landing spot for our team that gives them a better chance to succeed? So that's kind of the constant motive of our group, is to find ways to get the most out of our players and put them in a position where they can be at their best. And, you know, that's all encompassing. That's just not defense, offense, pick and roll. That's, you know, our approach, our schedule, the way we do everything we do. So it's a lot, but it's a lot of fun, and we enjoy doing it together. I think our staff has tremendous chemistry, and so we've really enjoyed that process.
Hey, Steve, you know, you have a veteran team, championship expectations. I'm sure, you know, as a part of you that would like to fast forward and get right back to competing at the highest level in the playoffs, you have this 82-game marathon. How do you sort of approach that? How do you kind of keep things interesting?
Well, I do think we want to win and be a successful basketball team that plays good basketball, that lives up to our expectations within our room, within our principles. This is how we want to play, and we continue to preach the way we want to play both sides of the ball. That's a process that you got to find reward in. You know, if you're thinking about fast forwarding to the playoffs, you're skipping steps. I think with a team that's very new, still relatively, you know, these days are important and helpful for us. There's so many things that you'd like to do looking back at the playoffs, but we just didn't have the time, the available bodies to practice and to implement. And it's very difficult to implement a lot with a team with very little corporate knowledge and no practice time. So this season is great for us. It gives us a chance to, you know, hopefully learn a lot more about ourselves, take our team to the next level, but also incorporate a lot of new faces and personalities and see how they fit and try to come out at the end of the season knowing a lot more about our group.
This question is for Coach. Coach, last season when I asked all the players, they said DeAndre Jordan and Uncle Jeff actually kind of the guy to bring the energy to the team, bring everyone together. So my question is, since they left the team, so who do you put a high hope to be the one kind of like glue everyone together in this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were fortunate enough to add guys like Patty Mills, and we have Bruce Brown returning, and Nick Claxton, some of these young guys with lots of energy, and you know, our veterans. You know, we didn't start the season with James Harden. You know, he's a exceptional leader, and Kai and Kevin lead at times, but other times they're just exceptional examples of how to approach the game. So I think when you put it all together, we have vocal leaders, we have guys that lead by example, we have guys that bring energy every day. And I think we have enough of a mix of personalities that we will, be able to bring the energy and the juice every day. But most importantly, our guys love the game and want to be here. So I think that's the ingredients to building a great environment.
This is actually for both of you guys. I mean, I'm curious when a guy is coming back from something as serious as Lamarcus is coming back from. What was that conversation like when he calls and says, "Hey, I'm cleared. I'm raring to go. I want to come back." Were those conversations going on even before he was cleared? saying, I want to get cleared. I'm going to try this. I'd like to come back. And secondly, there may be limits as to what exactly you can answer because of HIPAA, but I'm curious. Obviously, he wasn't going to be cleared unless he was able to practice and play safely. Are there concessions or maybe extra measures that you guys have to go through in terms of diagnostics to ensure that he can practice and play safely? Things that maybe other players aren't necessarily having to go through.
He has cleared everything, Brian, from a specialist standpoint, from a cardiologist. So we feel very comfortable with where he is. And more importantly, he feels comfortable. How'd the conversation go? To be quite frank, I mean, you can ask him that, but I tried to talk him out of it. I said, why, you don't need this. Why would you come back? And I think it's important to see the conviction. And it's not conviction made without really doing your due diligence. And he had already gone above and beyond in terms of talking to specialists and so forth and becoming and being cleared. He wouldn't have made that comment to me and have those conversations without already taking those steps. And then we further, did our own testing. He's been up here with our doctors, and that's where we arrived at the opportunity to bring him back.
This question is for both of you. As it relates to being the organization, you guys are forward thinking with science and sport performance and everything and along that lines. When you talk to players, especially guys that you have like Kevin and James who love to play and players love to tell you they know their body, how are you having conversations with them about the science? It's like, look, it might be good for you to actually have rest here. And how are those conversations going? How do you get them to, maybe pull back a little bit when they probably don't want to?
Not easy. But you'd rather guys that want to play and that you have to fight them to sit out or to play less minutes. And so we try to navigate it the best we can and pick our spots and try to be as protective as we can. But at the same time, we have guys that really want to play a lot of minutes. And that's a great starting point. Instead of someone who's trying to play as little minutes as possible and you're trying to coax them into more minutes, that's no way to win. So, our guys, our performance team is outstanding. I think they do an incredible job giving us the information and giving the players the curriculum to be able to, to improve and to sustain a season. Sometimes luck is outside of that. But as far as our guys, we love that they love the game, and that's what I think we all want to be about here. Is a group that loves basketball, loves the game, the challenge, the competition. And so our three guys, our big stars, are great examples of that.
Steve, do you think the disappointment of last year's finish will serve as a motivation for your players? And will it serve as a source of motivation for you as a coach?
I hope so. I think that all of us are competitors. I think all of us look at last year with disappointment. It's important for us to worry about what we could have controlled and done better last year, not made excuses for, guys that got hurt. So that is important to be able to look critically at yourself, individually, collectively. What can I do in case we're in a similar situation to help this group move forward? It's definitely a part of the NBA. One team wins every year, and everyone else grows a bigger resolve and a deeper resolve to be better and to put themselves in a chance, in a position to have a chance to win. And I think that's the process we're on. We, like Sean says, we own that we're out to win a championship. We own that, but it's a process, and you have to try to win that process to be there at the end.
Christian, go ahead.
I got another one for you guys, whoever wants to answer. Actually, it's two. One, can you kind of explain what type of impact a guy like... Oh, can you guys hear me? Can you kind of explain what kind of impact a guy like James Johnson can have on this roster and on this team? And second, I feel like a lot of people thought Nick had a pretty decent year last season, to say the least. Where does he fall when you add LaMarcus, when you bring back Blake, when you add Paul Millsap, when you draft Day'Ron? Where does kind of Nick fit into that picture?
I think Nick is an important part of what we do. He's a unique profile on our roster, an athletic, active, big, who can finish around the basket, guard multiple positions. That's I think, something that is very unique on our roster. And He's one of our better defenders, so I see Nick having a prominent role.
Adam Zagoria.
Hey, Steve, Adam Zagoria. Just going to sneak in my quick tennis question for you here. Has Leylah Fernandez or her family asked you for any kind of career advice going forward? Would you be willing to offer it if they did ask? And just what do you kind of think of the young Canadians, Felix and Dennis and Leylah coming up?
I've been in contact with Leylah and her family, wonderful family, obviously doing a lot of things right. And for her to, but at the same time, so poised and skilled at a young age. So I'm here to help if they need me, but they've just been grateful that I was there to support. Canada's obviously having a great moment with tennis, a lot of young players cracking the higher rankings, Dennis and Felix, obviously to name a couple, Bianca and Leylah on the women's side. So it's pretty fun to watch them play, and it's been incredible to watch the growth.
For Steve, when we spoke to Patty Mills after he signed, he was talking about how well he played in the Olympics and the level of freedom that he got with the national team as opposed to the Spurs. And he seemed to kind of anticipate getting that same expanded role with the Nets. How do you see it working out for him, and what kind of impact do you feel he's going to make with all that three-point shooting and his driving?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Patty has a lot to offer offensively. We have three guys that have the ball a lot and are off the charts as far as ability. So it's not like he just walks into a team that needs him to do a ton of stuff. Having said that, I think he's more than capable of doing a lot of things. And I think there will be times where he will have the ball in his hands. There'll be times where he can do more receiving the ball on the second side. I think that, he can have a little bit more freedom offensively in this system and with these teammates, but it won't look the same every night. It definitely won't look like Australia every night because we have, some primary ball handlers out there, but I'm excited for him to do more, to be more aggressive, to play off those guys and at times to initiate the offense. So he's, I think a great asset to our team, and I'm excited for him to start to kind of feel comfortable with our group.
Last question, Alex.
This is just for Steve. Last year, you divided the staff up a little bit to have, I think it was Jacques and Eam on the defensive end mostly, and Mike on offense, just because you've been a young coach. If you guys get away from something, it's easier for you to kind of address it. Just do you plan to employ a similar setup this year? Or now that you've had a year under your belt, you might switch it up?
Yeah, no, we'll do it again. I think it's very common in the league. A lot of teams do that. I think that I have a lot of confidence in our staff to have responsibility and roles and to empower them to develop, but also to have responsibility out there to own certain segments of what we do every day. And so it worked really well for us last year. I think we'll have the same approach this year, and we'll incorporate a couple new coaches, but they fit right in seamlessly already this September. So it's been a lot of fun, and we're right back at it.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.